say what you do on New Year's Eve sets the tone for your entire year. Maya wished she'd remembered that before accepting the invitation. The party was at the Bellmont Estate, a mansion that had been abandoned for 30 years after what happened in 1995. 12 people went in to celebrate New Year's Eve. Only one walked out. The police never found the bodies. They never found an explanation. They just sealed the doors and pretended the whole thing never happened. But now it was 2025, and some trust fund kid named Ethan had bought the place, renovated it, and decided to throw the most exclusive New Year's party of the decade. 200 people, open bar, live DJ, and one rule: your phone gets locked in a box at the door. Be present, the invitation said. Live in the moment. Maya should have thrown that invitation away, should have stayed home with her boyfriend Marcus, should have ignored the little voice that said this could be her chance to finally feel like she belonged somewhere. But she didn't. She got dressed. She went, and when the clock struck midnight and the lights went out, when the screaming started and the doors wouldn't open, when she realized that something in the Bellmont Estate had been waiting 30 years for midnight on New Year's Eve, by then it was already too late. Because the thing about New Year's parties is simple. You walk in as one person, and you walk out as someone different. If you walk out at all, hit subscribe and drop a comment with the scariest New Year's memory you've ever had, or the dark story you want us to cover next. Maya stood outside the Bellmont Estate, staring up at the mansion like it might swallow her whole. Maybe it would. The place was massive, 3 stories of Victorian Gothic architecture that looked like it had been designed specifically to make people feel small and unwelcome. Every window was lit up gold against the December night, music pulsing from inside. But there was something off about it, something that made her want to turn around and go home. She should have listened to that instinct. You coming or what? A guy in a designer suit brushed past her, laughing with his friends, all of them holding champagne flutes they must have grabbed from someone at the door. They disappeared inside without looking back, and Maya was alone again on the stone steps. Clutching her invitation like it was a permission slip to exist. Marcus had told her not to come. They'd fought about it for 3 days. It's New Year's Eve, he'd said. We should be together. Why do you need validation from people who don't even know you exist? But that was exactly why she needed to go. Because she'd spent her entire life being invisible, being the girl who watched other people's Instagram stories instead of making her own. And when that gold-embossed invitation had appeared in her mailbox, addressed to her personally from Ethan Cross himself, it felt like maybe she was finally being seen. She didn't know Ethan. Nobody really did. He'd appeared on social media 6 months ago with money he never explained, throwing parties that became legend, always in places with history. Dark history. The Riverside Hotel where that family drowned, the Clearwater Theater where the fire killed 18 people, and now the Bellmont researched this place, had gone down the rabbit hole at 2 in the morning while Marcus slept beside her, reading news articles from 1995 that made her skin crawl. New Year's Eve, 30 years ago. 12 people celebrating. The neighbors heard music until midnight, then nothing. When the police finally got a warrant 3 days later, they found the mansion empty. No bodies, no blood, no sign of struggle. Just 12 champagne glasses arranged in a perfect circle in the ballroom, still full, like everyone had put them down at exactly the same moment and walked away. Except they hadn't walked away. They'd vanished completely. The police investigation went nowhere. The families hired private detectives who found nothing. The mansion was sealed, labeled as a historical site, and left to rot for 3 decades until Ethan bought it 6 months ago and spent millions making it beautiful again. Maya took a breath and walked through the front doors. The entrance hall hit her like a wave. Crystal chandeliers, marble floors, walls covered in gold leaf that probably cost more than her entire apartment building. People everywhere, beautiful people in clothes that cost what she made in a month. All of them laughing and drinking like this was normal, like they belonged here. Phone. A woman in all black appeared beside her, holding an ornate wooden box. House rules. Everyone's phone goes in the box until 1 a.m. You get it back when you leave. Why? Maya asked, even though she knew the answer. The invitation had been clear. So you can be present. Live in the moment. Isn't that what tonight's about? The woman smiled, but it didn't reach her eyes. New year, knew you right. Maya hesitated, her phone warm in her clutch. Without it, she couldn't call Marcus, couldn't leave if things got weird, couldn't even take photos to prove she'd been here, but everyone else was doing it. She watched a group of girls drop their phones in the box without a second thought, giggling about how authentic this was going to be. Fine. Maya handed over her phone and watched it disappear into the box with dozens of others. The woman closed the lid with a soft click that sounded too final. Enjoy the party, the woman said. It's going to be unforgettable. Maya walked deeper into the mansion, following the music to a ballroom that looked like something from another century. A DJ was set up in the corner, but the space itself was all original. Hardwood floors, floor-to-ceiling windows, walls lined with mirrors that reflected the crowd back on itself, until it looked like there were thousands of people instead of 200. She grabbed champagne from a passing waiter and tried to blend in, tried to look like she belonged. Around her, people were dancing, laughing, taking photos with vintage cameras Ethan had provided. Since phones weren't allowed, it was performative, all of it. Everyone pretending to be carefree while carefully curating every moment. Maya found herself near one of the mirrors and stopped. Her reflection looked wrong, not obviously wrong, but off by maybe half a second, like the mirror was showing her past instead of her present. She moved her hand, and her reflection followed just a beat too late. Creepy, right? appeared beside her red dress, dark lipstick, the kind of confidence that Maya had always envied. All the mirrors in this place do that. Something about the renovation, Ethan said. The contractors couldn't figure it out. Who are you? Maya asked. Vanessa. The girl sipped her champagne. You're Maya, right? Ethan mentioned you were coming, said you were someone worth watching. Maya's stomach twisted. He said that. Don't get excited. He says that about everyone. Vanessa's smile was sharp. But you should be careful. This place has a vibe, you know. And not in a good way. My ex came here 3 weeks ago for one of Ethan's smaller parties. He called me at 2 a.m., completely freaked out. Said he saw things in the walls. Shadows that moved wrong. Faces that weren't faces. Is he here tonight? Maya looked around. No. Vanessa's expression went cold. He disappeared 2 days later. Police think he ran off, but his car's still parked outside his apartment, his wallet's still on his dresser. He just vanished. The music changed, something slower, and the lights dimmed. Maya felt cold suddenly, like someone had opened a window. But all the windows were closed. It's almost midnight, Vanessa said, checking a vintage clock on the wall, 11:47 p.m. That's when it happens, apparently. Whatever happened in 1995, whatever Ethan thinks is going to happen tonight. What do you mean, thinks is going to happen? But Vanessa was already walking away, disappearing into the crowd like she'd never been there at all. Maya needed air. The ballroom was too crowded, too loud. The mirrors reflecting versions of people that didn't quite match. She pushed through the crowd, ignoring the looks from people who definitely knew she didn't belong, and found a hallway that led deeper into the mansion. It was quieter here, colder. The music from the ballroom faded to a dull thump, and Maya could hear her own breathing, too fast, too shallow. She was panicking and she knew it, but she couldn't call Marcus, couldn't leave without her phone, couldn't do anything except keep walking and hope she found a bathroom or a balcony, or anywhere that wasn't full of people. The hallway opened into a library. Floor-to-ceiling bookshelves, leather chairs, a fireplace that wasn't lit, and photos on the mantel. Old photos in silver frames, black and white images of people in 1920s clothing standing in front of this same mansion. Maya walked closer. The photos were arranged chronologically. She realized different families, different decades, all of them looking happy. Until 1995. The last photo showed 12 people on New Year's Eve, wearing party hats, holding champagne glasses, smiling at the camera like they had their whole lives ahead of them. She recognized the room in the photo. It was the ballroom. The same ballroom where 200 people were dancing right now. They all died here, a voice said behind her. Maya spun around. Ethan Cross stood in the doorway, looking exactly like his Instagram photos. Tall, expensive haircut, suit that probably cost 5 figures, smile that didn't reach his eyes. You're Maya, he said. It wasn't a question. I'm glad you came. I've been watching your social media. You have a very interesting energy. "That's not creepy at all," Maya said, but her voice shook. Ethan laughed. "I know how it sounds, but I'm serious. You have something most people here don't. You're actually present. You're not performing, you're feeling." He walked to the mantel, picked up the 1995 photo. These people were performing. They came here to be seen, to prove they were having the best New Year's Eve of their lives. And something in this house fed on that, on the desperation to matter. "What are you talking about?" "The Bellmont Estate has a history," Ethan said, still staring at the photo. "Not just 1995. Every 20 years, on New Year's Eve, people disappear here. 1935, 1955, 1975, 1995. Always 12 people. Always at midnight. The pattern goes back to 1875, when the house was built. My researchers found records going back 150 years. Maya's hands were shaking. "Then, why did you buy it? Why throw a party?" "Because I'm tired of being afraid." Ethan turned to look at her, and his eyes were too dark, too empty. "I'm tired of living in a world where things like this exist, and we just pretend they don't. I want to see it, whatever it is. To understand it. You're insane." "Maybe," Ethan smiled. "Or maybe I'm the only sane one here. Everyone else is downstairs drinking champagne and pretending they're special, pretending their lives matter. But they're just food, entertainment, sacrifices to something that's been hungry for 30 years. Maya backed toward the door. "I'm leaving. You can't." Ethan's voice was gentle, almost apologetic. "The doors are sealed. They seal at 11:45. You have about 3 minutes until midnight, and then we'll see what happens. We'll see if the pattern holds. Let me out." Maya's voice cracked. "Let me out right now. I can't, even if I wanted to." Ethan set down the photo. "The house decides who stays and who goes. It always has. But don't worry, statistically, you'll probably survive. It only takes 12 people. 200 showed up tonight, so your odds are pretty good." Maya ran back down the hallway, back toward the ballroom, her heels clicking on marble, her breath coming in gasps. She could hear Ethan following behind her, not running, just walking like he had all the time in the world. The ballroom was packed now, everyone gathering for the countdown. A massive screen showed 11:58 p.m., 2 minutes until midnight. 2 minutes until the new year. 2 minutes until everyone. Ethan's voice boomed through speakers, and Maya realized he must have called ahead because he was suddenly on a small stage at the front of the room, microphone in hand, looking like the perfect host. "We're about to count down to the new year. But first, I want to thank you all for being here, for being part of something special, something historic." The crowd cheered. They had no idea. None of them had any idea. Maya pushed toward the doors, but people were packed too tight. She couldn't move, couldn't breathe. The clock changed to 11:59. "Now," Ethan said, his smile widening. "Let's count down together. 10, 10, the crowd echoed. Maya looked at the mirrors. all of them showing reflections that were wrong. People who moved a second too late. Faces that didn't quite match. 9. She saw Vanessa in the crowd, staring at her with an expression that might have been pity. 8. The temperature dropped. Maya could see her breath. Around her, people kept counting, oblivious to the cold, to the way the lights were flickering, to the shadows in the corners. 7. The mirrors cracked, thin lines spreading across the glass. 6. Maya tried to scream, but no sound came out. 5. Something moved in the walls. Behind the wallpaper, under the floorboards, shapes that weren't humans sliding through the structure of the house itself. 4. The champagne glasses arranged on tables started vibrating, liquids sloshing over the sides. 3. Maya looked at Ethan. He was staring directly at her, mouthing something, "I'm sorry." 2. The lights went out. 1. In the darkness, Maya heard breathing that wasn't human. Felt something cold brush against her neck. Smelled death and rot, and something older than death. Happy New Year. When the lights came back on, it was chaos. People were screaming, pushing, trying to get to the doors that wouldn't open. The windows wouldn't break. Maya watched someone throw a chair at the glass, and it bounced off like the window was made of steel. The DJ equipment was dead. The champagne had turned black in the glasses, thick and viscous like oil. And the mirrors. Every mirror in the ballroom showed empty reflections. 200 people in the room, 0 people in the glass. What's happening? A woman near Maya was crying, mascara running down her face. Why won't the doors open? Count, someone yelled. Count how many people are here. It was impossible. The crowd was moving too much, panicking too much, but Maya tried anyway, tried to focus, tried to count faces in the chaos. And slowly, she realized what was wrong. The room felt emptier, not by much, but enough to notice. Spaces where people should have been standing, conversations that ended mid-sentence because one person was just gone. 12. Vanessa appeared beside Maya again, her red dress now torn, her lipstick smeared. 12 people are missing, but here's the thing, nobody can remember who they were. Look around. Everyone's freaking out, but nobody's saying, "Where's John?" or "Where's Sarah?" They just know something's wrong. Maya grabbed her arm. "You knew this would happen. You warned me. I warned you to leave. You stayed." Vanessa pulled free. Now we all have to survive until sunrise. That's the rule. That's always been the rule. The house takes 12 at midnight, and everyone else has until 6 a.m. to get out. If the doors unlock, if we're still alive, this is insane. Maya was shaking so hard her teeth chattered. This can't be real. Tell that to them. Vanessa pointed at the walls. The wallpaper was moving, bulging outward like something was pushing from behind. And then Maya saw them faces, dozens of faces pressed against the wallpaper from the inside. Mouths open in silent screams, eyes that were all pupil and no white. They weren't trying to get out. They were watching, studying, choosing. Someone started sobbing, then someone else. Then the entire crowd dissolved into panic. People clawing at doors, breaking fingernails on windows, attacking each other in desperation to find an exit that didn't exist. Ethan was still on the stage, standing perfectly still, watching it all with an expression that might have been fascination or might have been regret. "You knew," Maya screamed at him over the chaos. "You knew, and you invited us anyway." "I needed to see," Ethan said simply. "I needed to understand what it takes, what it wants." He looked at her, and his eyes were full of something broken. "My sister disappeared here in 1995. She was one of the 12. I've spent 30 years trying to find her, trying to understand where she went. And now I know." He pointed at the walls, at the faces. "They're still here, all of them. Every person who ever vanished in this house. They're not dead. They're part of it now. Part of the structure. Part of the hunger." "You're sick," Maya whispered. "I'm honest." Ethan stepped off the stage. Everyone here came because they wanted to matter. They wanted to be special. They wanted their lives to mean something, and the house gives them that. It makes them eternal. They become part of its story, part of its purpose. What purpose? Ethan smiled. To feed on desperation, on the need to be seen, on the emptiness at the core of people who define themselves by how others perceive them. He looked around at the panicking crowd. Look at them. Half of them are still trying to take photos with those vintage cameras, still performing, still trying to document their suffering for an audience that isn't here. He was right. Maya saw it now, people posing in front of the broken mirrors. Someone actually laughing while their friend cried. Creating content in the middle of a nightmare, because that's what they'd been trained to do. Be interesting, be watchable, be entertaining even while dying. The lights flickered again. The temperature dropped further, and from somewhere deep in her, Maya heard a sound like chains dragging across stone. "It's coming," Vanessa said. Her voice was flat, empty. "The choosing is done. Now it wants the rest of us to watch, to understand what we're worth. We're getting out of here." Maya grabbed Vanessa's arm. "There has to be another way out. A window upstairs, a basement exit, something." "There's no way out," Ethan called after them as they ran. "There never was. The house decides when you leave, if you leave." Maya didn't listen. She ran with Vanessa through the mansion, past the library, up the stairs, through hallways lined with those horrible moving faces in the wallpaper. Behind them, the screaming continued. In front of them, every door led to another dead end, another sealed exit, another room full of furniture covered in dust that hadn't been there an hour ago. They ended up in what looked like a child's bedroom. Pink wallpaper, a small bed, toys arranged neatly on shelves, and photos on the dresser. A little girl, maybe 8 years old, smiling at the camera. In every photo, she was alone. "That's Emily Bellmont," Vanessa whispered. "The daughter of the family that built this house in 1875. She died on her 9th birthday. They say she threw herself from the 3rd floor balcony because nobody came to her party. Nobody wanted to celebrate with her. nobody wanted to see her. Maya stared at the photos, at the little girl's smile that didn't reach her eyes, at the desperate need for attention captured in old silver nitrate. She's the one doing this, Maya realized. She's been doing this for 150 years, taking people who want to be seen, turning them into an audience that can never look away. And she's hungry again, Vanessa said, because 30 years is a long time to wait between feedings. The bedroom door slammed shut behind them. The lights went out, and in the darkness, Maya heard a child's voice saying, 1, 2, midnight's here for you 3, 4. Can't find the door 5, 6. Pick up the sticks 7, 8. It's far too late 9, 10. You'll never leave again. When the lights came back on, Vanessa was gone, not missing gone, like she'd never existed at all. And on the wall where she'd been standing, a new face pressed against the wallpaper, mouth open in a scream, eyes wide with terror that would never end. Maya was alone, and it was only 12:23 a.m. 5.5 hours until sunrise. 5.5 hours until the doors might unlock. 5.5 hours to survive in a house that fed on the need to be seen. Trapped with 200 people who'd spent their entire lives performing for an audience, and Maya realized with horrible clarity that this was her fault too. She'd come here for the same reason as everyone else, to matter, to be noticed, to finally feel like she existed in a world that kept treating her like she was invisible. The house had seen that desperation, had smelled it on her like blood in water, and now it was going to make her wish she'd stayed invisible forever. The singing continued, that horrible child's voice echoing through the halls. Come and play. Come and stay in my house, where no one leaves. Every year I get to see all the people here for me. Maya ran. Maya survived until sunrise, barely, when the clock struck 6 a.m. and the front doors finally unlocked. 73 people walked out of the Bellmont Estate. Not 200. 73. The rest had vanished during those 5 hours, taken one by one, absorbed into the walls, turned into eternal audience members for a dead girl who'd spent 150 years collecting people who wanted to be seen. The police came. They always did. They found nothing. They always found nothing. No bodies, no evidence, no explanation for how 127 people could disappear from a locked mansion in 5 hours. The survivors told their stories, but nobody believed them. Shared trauma, the psychologist said. Mass hallucination brought on by drugs in the champagne, the investigators suggested. An elaborate hoax by Ethan Cross, the conspiracy theorists claimed. But Ethan never made it out. Maya saw him at 4 a.m., standing in the ballroom, staring at the walls where his sister's face pressed against the wallpaper. He was smiling. And then he walked forward, straight into the wall, and disappeared, like he'd finally found what he was looking for. Maya went home. Marcus was waiting, furious and terrified, ready to yell at her for ignoring his calls until he saw her face. She couldn't explain what happened, couldn't make him understand. watching people get absorbed into walls. Couldn't tell him about Emily Bellmont's singing, or the faces in the wallpaper, or the way the house fed on the desperate need to matter. She tried to move on, tried to pretend it was over. But 3 days later, she found a photo on her phone, a photo she didn't take, couldn't have taken because her phone was locked in that box until 1 a.m. It was taken at 12:17 a.m. inside the Bellmont Estate. It showed Maya standing in Emily's bedroom, staring at the wall where Vanessa's face had appeared. And in the mirror behind her, reflected perfectly, was Emily Bellmont, a little girl in a Victorian dress, smiling at the camera, her eyes completely black. The photo had 3,000 likes, all from accounts that had been deleted in 1995. Maya deleted the photo. It reappeared the next day, and the day after that, each time with more likes, more comments from accounts that shouldn't exist. Users whose profile pictures showed faces pressed against wallpaper, mouths open in silent screams. The Bellmont Estate was demolished 2 weeks after New Year's. The city claimed it was structurally unsound, a danger to the public. They tore it down in 4 days and poured concrete over the foundation like they were sealing a tomb. But Maya knows the truth. You can't demolish something that exists in the spaces between reality and need. You can't destroy a hunger that's been feeding for 150 years. You can only move it, relocate it, give it a new home. She's been watching the real estate listings, watching for Ethan Cross's name, even though he's officially missing, watching for expensive renovations on properties, dark histories, watching for invitations to exclusive parties at places where people disappeared decades ago, because the pattern doesn't end. It never ends. Every 20 years, Emily gets hungry. Every 20 years, she finds a new house, a new host, a new collection of people desperate to be seen, and 2045 is only 20 years away. Maya hasn't been to a New Year's party since that night. She stays home with Marcus, doors locked, curtains drawn, phone off. She doesn't post on social media anymore, doesn't take photos, doesn't try to document her life for an audience that isn't really watching, because she learned what happens when you spend your life performing, when you define yourself by how many people see you, when you're so desperate to matter that you'll walk into a mansion with a history of making people vanish just to feel like you finally belong somewhere. The house doesn't take everyone. It's selective. It only wants the ones who are already empty inside. The ones who have spent so long being what others want that they've forgotten who they actually are. The ones who would rather be seen and destroyed than remain invisible and alive. Maya survived because she stopped performing, stopped trying to be interesting, stopped caring about whether anyone was watching. In that moment at 2 a.m. when she was alone in the dark and something was breathing behind her, she made a choice. She'd rather be invisible and real than seen and hollow. Emily Bellmont didn't want her after that, couldn't feed on her anymore. The hunger only works on the desperate, but late at night, when Maya can't sleep, she still hears that singing. Come and play. Come and stay in my house, where no one leaves. Every year I get to see all the people here for me. And she knows that somewhere, in some renovated mansion with a dark history, another Ethan is planning another party. Another 200 people are getting invitations in gold envelopes. Another midnight is coming when the desperate will learn that being seen isn't the same as being valued. The house is patient. Emily is patient. They can wait another 20 years, another 40, another 100, because there will always be people who want to matter more than they want to live, who will trade safety for validation, who will walk through doors that should stay closed just to feel like they're finally special. And when they do, the walls will be waiting. The faces pressing against the wallpaper, mouths open, eyes wide, audience members who can never look away, forever seen, forever trapped, forever part of Emily's eternal party. So that's Maya's story. That's what happened at midnight in the Bellmont Estate. And if you think it's over, if you think demolishing the house ended anything, well, check your New Year's Eve invitations carefully. Check the venue history. Check who's hosting. Because Emily's still out there, still hungry, still collecting. If this story left you staring at your own walls a little differently, hit that subscribe button. We've got more tales about the things that feed on human desperation, the prices we pay for validation, and what happens when the audience you're performing for isn't human anymore. Drop a comment and tell us, would you go to a party at a haunted mansion if you got an exclusive invitation? What's the most desperate thing you've done to feel like you mattered? Or better yet, tell us what horror story you want to hear next. What keeps you up at night? What makes you question reality? Because here at Sinister Stories, we know the truth. The scariest monsters aren't the ones hiding under your bed. They're the ones that feed on the parts of yourself you don't want to admit exist. The need to be seen, the fear of being forgotten, the desperation to matter in a world that treats most people like they're invisible. Subscribe, comment, and this New Year's Eve, maybe just stay home. Lock your doors, turn off your phone, and whatever you do, if you get an invitation to a party at a renovated mansion with a dark history, throw it away. Because some parties you attend, and some parties attend you. Happy New Year. Try to make it to the next one.